A lot of times when I'm struggling to write, it's because I'm having a hard time feeling playful with my creativity. I don't feel connected to that sense of joy and wonder and discovery where you're really in the moment with your art and with your artistic practice. Um, when you work professionally and you have deadlines and your income is based on your creative output, it becomes really challenging to just think of it as fun and easy and playful because I really want to write the best piece I can possibly write, and I put so much pressure and expectation on myself to produce something that I feel like is worthy of the organization or the conductor. And it can get very easy to fall into that kind of anxiety of, is this going to be good enough? And am I going to make the deadline? And am I going to be able to sustain myself financially? All of these things are really, buzz killers when it comes to just sitting down and having fun and writing and playing. I have a lot of strategies to help me reconnect with that sense of play, and they mostly involve returning to my early childhood joys. And some of them are musical joys, but some of them are not. They're just things that I loved to do for fun. I've always loved imagery, and I've always loved scrapbooking. That was one of my favorite activities as a kid. And it's actually something that I've incorporated now into my creative process. You can see I have a lot of photographs kind of pinned up on the wall behind me in my studio. And these are all images that I find inspiring. And so when I'm looking at a beautiful image that I've found, that I've kind of collected, it brings me back to that kind of place where I'm in my room as a kid with my journal, with my scrapbook, and cutting out pieces of paper, and just how fun and free I felt doing that. I try to bring that in to my my serious classical work. I also, I really loved pop music as a kid. And I've noticed that, particularly since the pandemic, I've been gravitating more towards, melodic sounds, more tonality. That these are really comforting sounds for me. And so I'm sort of allowing myself to lean into that language a little bit more. It's certainly not a pop language, but it's a melodic singing language. And I grew up singing. That's how I was, initially connected to music. So right now I'm finishing up an orchestral work for the Cincinnati Symphony, and I actually intentionally decided to make the piece about play and wonder and childlike joy. And they wanted it to be for their 125th anniversary season and a celebratory piece, so it fit with what the orchestra was looking for as well. And so what I do with my process is basically, I pick sort of a general emotional theme that I want to convey in the piece. And then I start to look for imagery, and I kind of imagine that I'm scrapbooking, and I start to think of a story that I want to tell. And it's not necessarily a literal story in the programmatic sense, but it's some kind of journey and emotional transformation. And that also comes from my early love of reading and storytelling and acting, even, and theater. So then once I have this kind of trajectory, the images start to actually inspire musical gestures. So with this piece, Paper Leaves on Fields of Clay, that's what I'm calling it. I'm thinking a lot about just the fluttering of a leaf and how it kind of moves in the wind and shifts in the light. And I was thinking also just a lot about my little cat, who I love, and sort of how she chases small objects that kind of glitter in the light. And I'm not going to share, well, I'm sharing now on this video, but I'm not going to share in the program notes that I was, thinking about my cat chasing a ball of yarn, because that, I think, is ultimately distracting to the audience, and also not important, because it's really just about getting my ideas flowing. And if it's a cat that does that, great. But ultimately, I just want to be in that world because I think once I'm in that world of fun and joy, that's when I really connect to my deep creativity, and that's when I can write something that I think is powerful. Please feel free to share what you loved as a child, what made you feel creative, and thanks for listening.